When I was petting the cat in the living room in the middle of the night, from my roommate's room came a suppressed, muffled groan. This instantly dumbfounded me. I thought I was hearing things. It wasn't until my restless hands gave the cat's tail a squeeze that my roommate's door was slammed open with a bang. Guyan, turn off that damn massager of yours. This story has to start from 2.5 months ago. That day, I came across a stray cat, although it was covered in dirt. Those glass-like eyes looked exceptionally pure. So, driven by some inexplicable force, I brought it home. I live in a 2-bedroom shared apartment. My roommate is a prominent figure at our school, Shen Nuo. She is the beauty of the architecture department, the kind who seems completely aloof from worldly affairs, except for rent day every month. I barely speak a few words to her. The day I brought the cat back, she happened to be drinking water in the living room, seeing the filthy little thing in my arms. Shen Nuo furrowed her brows hard enough to catch a fly. Apartment rules, no pets allowed. I just thought it looked too pitiful. So I'm just taking it in for one night. I'll send it away tomorrow. Shen Nuo didn't say anything else, which was basically a tacit consent. Later, after I gave it a good wash, I named it Snowball. And although Shen Nuo claimed to despise it, she didn't kick us out. Thus, that one night turned into night after night. I thought life would continue peacefully like this. Until that Friday evening. I had just grinded through a project and decided to pet Snowball to relieve my fatigue. But the moment I touched it, Snowball rolled onto its back and started purring. However, right at that moment, I heard from Shen Nuo's room a series of heavily suppressed, muffled groans. This confused me, and I stopped my hands immediately. The groans disappeared in a flash, as if they were just an illusion. It made me mistakenly think my body was just exhausted from staying up late, so I continued petting Snowball, thinking I'd stroke it a few more times before going to rest. As a result, another muffled groan came crystal clear through the crack of Shen Nuo's door. That sound was soft and delicate, occasionally carrying an indescribable allure. It instantly made me shiver all over, uncontrollably producing a certain physical reaction. Holy smokes! What's going on here? What is Shen Nuo doing in her room? Making this kind of sound, it really lets a guy's imagination run wild. For a moment, all sorts of indescribable scenes kept floating up in my tingling mind. But very quickly, I forced that wicked fire back down. And with an expression of utter disbelief, I stared toward Shen Nuo's room. No way. Could something this absurd actually be happening? With that thought, I tentatively poked Snowball's belly. And almost at the exact same moment, another short whimper came from Shen Nuo's room. What kind of supernatural phenomenon is this? I'm petting the cat, and Shen Nuo actually feels it. This is even more thrilling than a horror movie. This sudden discovery had me tossing and turning all night, my mind filled with Shen Nuo's few fatal muffled groans. Until the next morning, when I went to the bathroom sporting dark circles under my eyes. Just as I opened my door, I saw Shen Nuo coming out of her room. Her complexion didn't look too good either, with faint dark circles of her own. And what was even more lethal, I noticed her lips seemed a bit red and swollen. So almost instantly, the dirty thoughts I had just discarded started playing automatically in my head again. Haha, morning. She ignored me, drifting into the bathroom like a gust of wind. When I returned to the living room, I looked at Snowball sprawling on its back, and immediately hatched a bold experimental plan. First, I sat next to Snowball, pretending to play on my phone. Then, after Shen Nuo had changed her clothes and arrived at the entryway, I suddenly struck like lightning, grabbing the base of Snowball's tail. This made Snowball let out a meow, its whole body puffing up. And almost at the same time, I heard a startled gasp of awe from the entryway. When I sharply turned my head to look, Shen Nuo was leaning against the shoe cabinet, her body as soft as if she had no bones. Her pretty face was completely flushed red. She glared at me with a mix of shock and anger. Yet her lips trembled for a long time, without being able to form a single word. I'm really sorry. I accidentally pulled Snowball's tail just now. Did it startle you? As my voice faded, Snowball suddenly started rubbing against me. At the same time, Shen Nuo, right in front of me, visibly shivered. Her gaze instantly shifted, even carrying a trace of an unspeakable haze. But very quickly, she bit her lower lip tightly again, as if using all her strength to resist something. Guyan, do you think you're so cool? After saying that, she turned and left without looking back. Looking at the violently slammed door, only one thought remained in my mind. That between myself and the icy campus beauty, some sort of connection had seemingly been established. After this incident, my relationship with Shen Nuo entered a bizarre phase of equilibrium. She started avoiding me, As long as I was in the living room, she would absolutely never step out of her room. Even grabbing her takeout was like acting as a thief, calculating the exact moment I was in the bathroom to dash out, grab it, and run. But even so, Shen Nuo couldn't escape that sensation, because Snowball clung to me 90% of the time. And I started intensifying my experiments. I know acting like this makes me a jerk, but that feeling of controlling someone else's switch is truly too intoxicating. At the same time, through so many experiments, I also discovered her most vulnerable spot corresponds to the soft flesh behind Snowball's ears. As long as I gave it a gentle scratch, in less than 2.5 seconds, there would absolutely be some noise from her room. Sometimes it was the sound of a book dropping on the floor. Sometimes the commotion of a chair being knocked over. The most intense time, I even heard a suppressed, sobbing cry. So after that instance, I stopped for 3 days. I kept feeling like I was being a jerk, feeling really guilty inside, until the evening of the 3rd day. I was watching a movie alone in the living room, and Snowball predictably spawned and started rubbing against my hand. But it wasn't long before I heard a slight nose, followed by footsteps drawing closer, finally stopping behind the sofa. I knew what was happening, so I chose not to turn around. Instead, I actively placed my hand on Snowball and started petting it. Although the TV in the living room was playing sound, the successive muffled groans were still easily caught by my ears. My hand movements even began to speed up, and finally moved toward the soft flesh behind its ears. Almost instantly, a sigh of satisfaction rang out right next to my ear. It instantly made my hair stand on end, and my whole body went numb. I turned my head sharply, and found Shen Nuo standing right behind me. At this moment, her hair was messy and her eyes were misty, as if she had just been pulled out of the water. Moreover, her cheeks bore an unnatural flush, giving off an irresistible sense of attraction. When she realized what was happening, a flash of panic suddenly crossed her eyes. But this time she didn't run. Instead, she stared intently at me and Snowball beside me. Goo. Turn off that massager. What massager? I haven't seen one. It's that. The one that keeps buzzing. Following her line of sight, I then noticed Snowball was lying on a small vibrating electronic device. So, seeing this, I instantly understood everything. This reaction. Could she possibly think I'm the type to use toys like that? This misunderstanding is really too exciting. Especially her mix of shame and anger, while pretending to be calm. Therefore, thinking of this, I couldn't help but ignite a little flame of mischief. You mean this? Although it buzzes, it's not called a massager. Its name is Snowball. As soon as the words fell, Shen Nuo's face changed colors at a visible speed. After holding it in for a long time, without even saying a single word, she slammed her door shut and went back into her room. The force this time was surprisingly strong, shaking the dust off the walls. The icy campus beauty. Isn't that icy after all? At least her skin is pretty thin. After this massager incident, Shen Nuo completely started clashing with me. She stopped avoiding me, and chose to face me head-on instead. For example, when I woke up in the morning, I'd find my milk in the fridge all drank up, or my clothes hanging on the balcony would accidentally fall on the floor, and accidentally get a few clearly visible footprints on them. Shen Nuo even bought a bunch of garlic and hung them at her bedroom door, claiming it was to ward off evil spirits, but really she just wanted to stink me out. But no matter what she did, she was still just a rookie in front of me. After all, I had the ultimate winning cat in my hands. One day, coming back from class, I found my room had been invaded. The action figures on my desk were twisted into weird poses. The blanket on my bed was crumpled into a ball of pickled veggies. The most outrageous part was that on my computer screen, someone had drawn a giant turtle with lipstick. You wouldn't even need half a brain to know that this was Shen Nuo's new trick. Playing dirty behind my back, huh? Then don't blame me. With that said, I walked out of my room. I happened to find Shen Nuo drawing in the living room, casually listening to music, as if nothing had anything to do with her. So I scooped Snowball into my arms, and right under her nose, blatantly sat down on the sofa. Then, I deliberately slowed my movements to give Snowball a full-body massage. And almost at the same time, Shen Nuo's paintbrush started to get unsteady, while her breathing became rapid and chaotic. Her face gradually flushed red. Humph, trying to fight me? Watch me send you to the moon. I began to increase the pressure, and purposely kept kneading the back of Snowball's neck. That was its favorite spot. So in the blink of an eye, Snowball let out a purr as loud as a wolf's howl. At the same time, Shen Nuo's drawing pen dropped to the floor. Her whole body went soft as if all her strength had been drained. After she struggled to lift her head, I noticed that right now, in Shen Nuo's eyes, there was actually a bit of pleading. Guyan, what exactly do you want? Nothing much. Just wanted to bond with my cat. Saying that, I pointed to my room, smiling like a big villain. By the way, may I ask? The turtle in my room. Which artist's work is it? It's quite unique. Hearing this, Shen Nuo's cheeks instantly turned bright red. She bit her lip tightly, glaring at me without blinking. After a long while, she suddenly took a deep breath, as if she had made some resolution. Guyan, let's talk. The negotiation took place at the cafe downstairs. This was our first time sitting down face to face like normal roommates. Shen Nuo ordered the most bitter black coffee. It seemed like she was using the bitterness to stay awake. Tell me, what do you want to do? First tell me, when I touch Snowball, what exactly do you feel? At these words, a faint blush appeared on Shen Nuo's cheeks. Obviously, this question made her very embarrassed. It's just ... A very strange feeling. Like being electrocuted ... My whole body goes numb. Especially ... In certain places. For example, almost before she even finished speaking, I chased after her with questions like a curious child. And this made Shen Nuo's face even redder. She immediately glared at me. Aren't you asking when you already know? Alright, then let's talk about serious matters. How do you want to solve this? Cut off this abnormal connection. I completely agree. But the question is, how do we cut it? Now it was Shen Nuo's turn to be silent. After all, this wasn't scientific to begin with. It's not like Bluetooth that you can just disconnect. I've checked some books. This phenomenon is called sensory synchronization. It usually occurs between lifeforms sharing a special bond. So, to break it, we have to find the source of the bond, and then sever it. Listening to her academic explanation, I was completely lost and didn't understand what a source of bond was. Shen Nuo, who seemed to somewhat understand, took a deep breath and asked me about the cat. Where did you find it? Just in that small alley behind the school. There is an abandoned courtyard at the end of it. It was on the courtyard wall at that time. Hearing this, Shen Nuo's eyes instantly lit up. Quick, take me there right now. Seeing her looking so serious, I could hardly hold back my laughter. I'm telling you very seriously right now. I don't want to endure this state for another minute. Guyan, I don't know what you feel, but this is pure torture for me. Every time you touch it, it feels like you're touching me. It makes it impossible for me to study, impossible to draw, and even impossible to sleep. Seeing her suppressed, breakdown-like expression, the mischievous pleasure in my heart instantly vanished. Replaced instead was an unspeakable sense of guilt. I deeply felt that I had indeed gone too far. Therefore, I put away my playful smirk and seriously promised her that weekend I took Shen Nuo to that abandoned courtyard. It was dilapidated here and overgrown with weeds. Right here, Snowball was up there meowing at me. Shen Nuo didn't speak, just silently walked a lap around the courtyard. She was so meticulous that she didn't even miss the broken tiles on the ground. Right at that moment, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Don't you think? It's a bit strange here. Nothing strange about it. It's just a broken down courtyard ... It's too quiet here. Outside is a bustling snack street. But once you step into this courtyard, it feels like all the noise is blocked out. Hearing Shen Nuo say this, I suddenly realized it too. It really was too quiet here. So quiet that you could only hear the wind blowing through the weeds. Guyan, come look at this. At that moment, Shen Nuo, crouching on the ground, shouted to me anxiously, and she was holding something in her hand. It was a very small, wooden carved cat. Even though it was only thumb-sized, the carving was exceptionally detailed, and it even bore a 70 or 80% resemblance to Snowball when turning it over. The base had two very small and blurry characters carved on it, appearing ancient and mysterious. Then Shen Nuo took out her phone, took a picture of those two characters, and uploaded it to some incomprehensible app for recognition. Soul binding charm. Could this be the source of the bond? Hearing this, I was a bit confused. Hard to believe a broken wood carving could actually make two people share sensory synchronization. Isn't that a bit too fantastical? However, just as we were staring blankly at the carving, the sky suddenly darkened. Following that, large swaths of dark clouds began to gather. In the blink of an eye, a torrential downpour began. And almost at the exact same time, I grabbed Shen Nuo's hand and dashed out of the courtyard. Her hand was very cold, and also very soft, but at that moment, I didn't have time to overthink it. I just focused on pulling her forward. But we didn't run for long before the rain became even more intense, so running out of it was definitely out of the question. We had no choice but to brave the storm and enter a small shack that hadn't completely collapsed yet. And at this very moment, we were already drenched like drowned rats. Then, thunderclaps struck one after another, shaking the little broken shack until it trembled, and Shen Nuo seemed afraid of the thunder, subconsciously shrinking closer to my side. A lone man and a lone woman sharing a single room instantly made the musty air turn intimate. Or perhaps it was because of the closing distance. I actually clearly caught the scent of her perfume. However, right at that moment, something even more fatal occurred. I just felt my pant leg being brushed by something. Looking down, I discovered it was Snowball, completely soaked. I have no idea when it followed us. Right after, Snowball took a leap and jumped straight into my arms. And it started rubbing against me crazily. At the same time, I clearly felt Shen Nuo trembling slightly beside me. I didn't even dare to turn my head to look at her, terrified that her expression, wanting to die yet somewhat comfortable, would uncontrollably lead me down the path of crime. Guyan, make it stop. Hearing this, I frantically started to push Snowball away. But this little troublemaker, who knows what got into it, was acting like it was high on catnip, clinging to me, refusing to let go. In fact, the more I struggled, the more vigorous it became. And almost at the same moment, I heard a highly suppressed muffled groan from Shen Nuo. This instantly gave me a shameful reaction. So, almost resorting to a yell, I finally stopped Snowball's movements. Immediately after, I slowly turned my head and found Shen Nuo pressing weightly against the wall. I couldn't distinguish if it was rainwater or sweat. However, her face was so red it looked like it was bleeding. And she was biting her lower lip tightly. That appearance was both pitiful and beautiful, making me almost lose my mind. Are you okay? She looked up, looking at me with an incredibly complex gaze. In those eyes, there was anger, shame, grievance, and a lot of things I couldn't comprehend. But at this moment, she didn't speak, making the atmosphere drop to the freezing point, while I clearly heard her rapid heartbeat. I don't know how much time passed. The rain finally let up a bit. At the same time, Shen Nuo finally broke the silence. Let's head back. I didn't speak, just silently nodded. After returning to the apartment, I took a shower and changed into some clean clothes. And at this moment, the main culprit was lazily snoozing on the sofa. Just as I wanted to go over and scold it a bit, Shen Nuo's door suddenly opened. She had showered too, and also changed into clean clothes. I saw her slowly walking towards me, and once again handing out that wooden cat carving. This might really be the key. So we need to destroy it. But what if destroying it doesn't work? Or even has side effects? I don't care. We have to give it a try. Looking at her very determined expression, I suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable inside. After all, at first, I just thought this whole thing was very amusing. But now seeing Shen Nuo tormented like this, I couldn't laugh anymore either. If destroying this can bring her back to normal, then let's destroy it. However, how to destroy this wood carving became the puzzle of the century. It looks like wood, but it's as hard as stone. Smashing it with a hammer, gripping it with pliers, it remained completely unscathed. Shen Nuo even resorted to metaphysical methods. Soaking it in salt water, burning it with fire, dousing it in black dog blood. None of these managed to harm it in the slightest. Forget it, this thing is probably a diamond spirit. Us mortals can't do anything to it. Then what do we do? Are we going to keep going like this forever? Seeing Shen Nuo's frustrated face, I suddenly had a bright idea. Actually, it's not entirely without its benefits. Think about it ... Although the process of this sensory sync is a bit awkward. Looking at the result, it's actually a unique way of communicating. The more I spoke, the more it made sense to me, completely forgetting that I was making it all up. I even talked about reverse control and using Snowball to communicate when we don't want to talk, and blurted out a whole series of animated ideas. I thought Shen Nuo would just dismiss them. But unexpectedly, her eyes went from initial shock to slowly turning weird. And finally, she burst out laughing. And this was the first time I saw her laugh. Clearly a flower blooming in the warmth of spring, but insisting on being a cold, ruthless mountain. But at that moment, I also had to admit, my heart definitely skipped a beat. because her smile was truly too beautiful. Guyan, how did I not notice you were such a smooth talker before? Noticed it now. But it's too late. Once bound, no returns accepted. After saying that, Shen Nuo burst out laughing again, instantly making the atmosphere in the living room relax. And all that awkwardness, and those confrontations, also vanished into thin air with his smile. That day, we chatted for a long time like friends. From school gossip to our plans for the future. At the same time, I also found out that she isn't really that aloof from worldly affairs. She also likes watching comedy variety shows, also loves eating junk food, and also gets stressed when she can't draw a satisfactory sketch. It's just that before this, she was used to disguising herself with indifference. And I was the one who accidentally peeled back her hardest shell. We chatted all the way into late night that day. Until Shen Nuo was unbearably sleepy, did we say our goodnights, and go back to our respective rooms to rest. But just as she opened her door, Shen Nuo suddenly turned back around. Goo. Tonight. After saying that, she ducked into her room immediately like she was running away. I froze in place, taking quite a while to process what she meant. Finally, I couldn't help but smile faintly. This sensory synchronization doesn't seem so unacceptable anymore. Since breaking the ice that night, my relationship with Shen Nuo entered a brand new phase. We are no longer just simple roommates, nor are we like purely platonic friends. It's more like we have mutual feelings for each other, yet remaining in that phase without ever breaking the barrier. We often eat together, watch movies together, and even play with the cat together. Of course, every time I tease the cat, I would crazily test the waters back and forth around the forbidden zone. But this peace was soon broken. The one who broke it was a junior of mine. Her name is Lin Yumo. She is a very enthusiastic girl who has always been actively pursuing me. This day, she somehow found out my address from somewhere, and actually showed up right at my door holding a bouquet of flowers. The one who opened the door for her was Shen Nuo, so the moment the two girls met, the smell of gunpowder instantly filled the air. Who are you? Why are you in Senior Guyan's house? I am his roommate. Roommate? You guys are a guy and a girl living together. I heard the commotion, and immediately darted out of my room. And the moment she saw me, Lin Yumo immediately put on a pitiful expression. Senior, I came to give you flowers. But this sister doesn't seem to welcome me very much. I awkwardly took the flowers, not knowing what to say. So I could only go along with Shen Nuo's previous explanation, and clarified that we were just roommates. But Lin Yumo clearly didn't believe it. However, she didn't keep pestering about it either. Instead, acting very familiar, she walked over to Snowball on the sofa. What a cute cat. Senior, is this yours? What's its name? Its name is Snowball. But right after I spoke, I suddenly felt an icy glare directed at me from my side. I turned my head and saw that Shen Nuo was staring intently at Snowball in Lin Yumo's arms. Oh crap. I forgot about this. If someone else touches Snowball, will she feel it? Lin Yumo didn't know about any of this, and was excitedly rubbing Snowball, petting it from head to tail. Meanwhile, Shen Nuo stood there completely motionless, only her face was growing paler by the second, and her lips were pressed tightly together. Yumo. Snowball is naturally timid. You better not. But before I could finish my sentence, Shen Nuo had already returned to her room without a word, accompanied by a loud bang. Lin Yumo and the Snowball in her arms were both startled by the loud noise. Senior, this roommate of yours. Her temper is really weird. I was in no mood to explain things to her, because right now in my mind, it was all filled with Shen Nuo's expression from just now. Could she be jealous? After Lin Yumo left, I immediately went to Shen Nuo's door. Shen Nuo opened the door. Listened to me explain things clearly. However, no matter how much I knocked, Shen Nuo gave no response at all. Don't be mad at me. There's really nothing between me and her. I pounded the door hard, as anxious as ants on a hot pan. After a long while, the door was slowly pulled open from the inside, leaving a crack. Then Shen Nuo poked half her head out. Her eyes red, obviously having just cried. Whether you had anything to do with her or not, what does it have to do with me? How could it have nothing to do with you? You are ... You are my most important roommate. I almost blurted out you are my girlfriend. But luckily I controlled my words in time. Just now when she was petting Snowball, did you feel something unusual inside? Shen Nuo fell silent for a moment, then gently shook her head. I just ... was feeling a bit unwell. I don't like outsiders touching my ... things. She said this last sentence extremely softly. At the same time, I froze, instantly understanding the meaning behind it. The thing she referred to, on the surface, meant Snowball. But it seemed it wasn't just simply about Snowball. So I saw through it without exposing it. My heart instantly bloomed like a blossoming flower. This intense possessiveness is just way too lovable. Okay, your things. From now on, besides me, no one else is allowed to touch. Is that okay? Hearing this, Shen Nuo shot me a sideways glance. It even made me feel a bit guilty. Guyan. Are you ... really enjoying this situation? This sudden sentence made me choke for a second. Enjoying it. At the very beginning, I did enjoy it quite a bit. That sense of controlling a secret, the joy of teasing the icy goddess. Anyone would be infatuated with it. But now, looking at her slightly reddened eyes, and the grievance hanging on her face, all I could feel in my head was the word heartache. Enjoying it. Not enjoying it at all. I just didn't know how to make it stop. After all, this sensory synchronization was like a runaway train. It was carrying us towards an unknown direction. I wanted to stop it. Yet I couldn't bear to part with it. Because I knew, once this train stopped, that special connection we had so painstakingly built between us would instantly snap. And it might even push us back to that ... mutually familiar, yet unfamiliar state again. Therefore, after I poured out the words from the bottom of my heart, Shen Nuo seemed to realize the same problem too. After a long while, she finally said softly, "Let's research that wood carving more deeply." Just like that, this sudden crisis was considered resolved. And starting from this day, some things were different from before. That secret called sensory synchronization was no longer a curse plaguing us, but more like an invisible red thread, slowly pulling us together. In order to study that unbreakable wood carving, we flipped through all the related ancient books in the library. Eventually, we found a related description in a fragmentary volume of strange tales. The book recorded, "The soul-binding charm uses blood as a medium, and the heart as a connection. It allows two souls to connect and feel what the other feels. To break this charm requires the two hearts to be perfectly in tune, to travel together to the land of Linxi, and dissolve it with true love." According to Shen Nuo's rough understanding, the idea to break it was to have the two people truly fall in love. Truly fall in love. I repeated it, feeling a bit panicked, and secretly stole a glance at her from the corner of my eye. Little did I expect that Shen Nuo's face would actually also turn slightly red like mine, so I hurriedly changed the subject. "Then what about that land of Linxi? What kind of place is it?" Shen Nuo shook her head. Because there were no related records in the fragment. So the clue broke off right here. At the same time, our sensory synchronization also underwent a subtle change. Aside from tactile sensation, we also developed an emotional resonance. Once, because a project proposal of mine got rejected, I was in a terrible mood. While I was sulking alone in my room, Shen Nuo suddenly knocked on my door. And she was even holding a bowl of steaming hot noodles in her hands. When you are in a bad mood, eating something will make you feel a bit better. I was stunned at the time, and hurriedly asked her how she knew I was in a bad mood. I felt it. My heart felt awfully heavy, and extremely irritable. Thinking it over, it probably wasn't my issue, so it could only be your problem. Hearing this answer, a warm current surged in my heart, and it instantly dispelled all the negative emotions. After all, that feeling of being understood and cared for is truly wonderful. Another time, she was watching a tragic movie in her room. I was playing games in the living room, but as I was playing, I suddenly felt a sting in my nose. Then, tears suddenly rolled down my cheeks, and inexplicable sadness instantly engulfed my entire being. Later, I ran to her room to check, only to see her teary eyes and the tragic movie playing on her screen. This feeling was very peculiar. It could intertwine our joys and sorrows. I could feel her vulnerability, and she could sense my disappointment. We became each other's most loyal listeners and most attuned comforters, and I became increasingly addicted to this feeling. If the price of breaking the sync was losing all this, then I'd rather never break it. Later, to test the limits of our sensory synchronization, we took advantage of an academic competition to conduct a physical separation experiment. The night before I left, Shen Nuo helped me pack my luggage. As she was folding the clothes, she kept reminding me and asked, "Did you pack your toothbrush? What about your towel? Don't forget your power bank." That look of hers was exactly like a little wife sending her husband off on a long journey. "Don't worry. I'm not a kid. With your forgetful memory. I'm afraid you might even lose yourself. I nodded without saying a word, but my arms holding Snowball tightened a little. The next day, I got on the high-speed train to the neighboring city. The moment the train started moving, my heart suddenly felt empty. We had clearly just separated, yet I was already starting to miss her. It wasn't until I arrived at the hotel and settled in that I immediately gave Shen Nuo a video call. And she picked up very quickly, as if she had been staring at her phone, waiting for my call. You arrived? Yeah, just got here. So ... Let's start the test. How do we test it? Wake Snowball up. And I'll guide you. Shen Nuo did as I said, gently patting Snowball to wake it up. Then, I took a deep breath, as if performing a sacred ritual. Now, use your hand, and gently touch its ear. Shen Nuo did so, but it didn't give me any sensation in return. This made my heart suddenly sink, and a wave of disappointment washed over me. But very quickly, I suddenly thought of something else. Try again. Touch its belly. That was the spot where our reactions were the most intense. So, after hesitating for a moment, Shen Nuo gently scratched Snowball's belly. And almost at the exact same moment, a faint, yet exceptionally clear electric current struck from my lower abdomen. I felt it. I felt it. Hearing my response, Shen Nuo also breathed a sigh of relief. The discovery from this experiment left us with mixed feelings. The joy was that the sink didn't completely disappear because of the distance. The worrying was that the distance did indeed weaken it. Therefore, this meant that the invisible thread between us had a signal range. If we wanted to maintain the closest connection, we had to be in the same place. Before hanging up the video call, Shen Nuo hugged Snowball and softly said to me, Guyan, come back soon. At that moment, I wished I could buy a ticket right away and rush back to her side at top speed. 2 days later, the competition ended. I won the third prize. But I didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. I even politely declined the celebration banquet hosted by my mentor and directly booked the earliest high-speed train back. I only wanted to hurry back to her side. And when I returned to the place I had been longing for, it was already late at night. However, a small nightlight was on in the living room, and both Shen Nuo and Snowball were curled up asleep on the sofa. I walked over quietly, and by the dim light, carefully observed that face I missed so much. Just as I couldn't help but reach out to touch her, I suddenly stopped. I was afraid of waking her up, and afraid of ruining this tranquil and beautiful peace. So I withdrew my hand, and gently stroked Snowball beside her instead. Then I slowly slid my hand down its spine. This made Shen Nuo frown slightly in her sleep, and let out a soft sigh of satisfaction. Then my playful mood struck again, and I poked directly at Snowball's paw pads. At the same time, Shen Nuo on the sofa had an even more obvious reaction, even murmuring the words "stop messing around." Who was she dreaming of? Who was messing around with her? Thinking of this, a bold idea sprouted in my mind. So I leaned down and gently leaned close to her ear. Shen Nuo, the person messing around with you, is it me? Although she didn't respond, her breathing lost its rhythm. Even her earlobe suddenly turned red. So I was absolutely certain she was already awake, and the discovery of this detail instantly made the blood in my body boil. So I wasn't the only one addicted to this feeling. She was addicted to it too, and enjoying it as well. This made me smile like a fox that had gotten its way. Then I gently held her hand. Her hand was very cold, but the moment I held it, it trembled slightly. However, she didn't pull it back. Instead, she let me stroke the back of her hand, just like how I usually pet Snowball. Shen Nuo ... right now ... do you feel it? She still didn't respond, but her breathing became increasingly rapid. The redness of her earlobe spread to her cheeks, looking like she was about to be exposed, and I waited quietly, waiting for her to give me an answer, whether she would push me away or accept me. As time ticked away second by second, Shen Nuo's tightly closed eyes finally opened a slit. In those beautiful eyes, there was shyness, panic, and a trace of hazy sinking I had never seen before. I do. This simple word made my mind instantly explode. I won. I won this long-lasting contest. So I stopped restraining myself and straightforwardly kissed her lips. And very quickly, she softened under my slightly aggressive advance. A long while later, I looked at her completely flushed face and couldn't help but reveal a doting smile. Guyan, you fouled. Are you sure? Who was the one pretending to sleep first? I don't care. You still fouled. Alright, I fault. Then I'll accept my punishment. Punish you with what? Punish me by making you be my girlfriend. Her pupils constricted slightly, clearly not expecting me to be so direct. Guyan. Are you serious? But between us. Is it because of that sensory synchronization? I understand. The synchronization was just the beginning. But it's not everything. Shen Nuo. I like you. Not because I can feel you through Snowball. But because I just simply like you. I like the way you look when you're focused on drawing. I like the way you get flustered when we bicker. I like how you obviously care about me, yet insist on pretending you don't care. I like everything about you. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the synchronization. Even if there were no synchronization today, I would still fall for you all the same. So, are you willing to give me a chance? Listening to everything I said in one breath, Shen Nuo's eyes were already completely red and teary. She didn't say a word, but reached out her arms and hugged me tightly. Then, she offered a kiss that, compared to just now, was even more passionate and devoted, using this kiss to give the most affirmative response. In my more than 20 years of life, there has never been a single moment that felt more perfect and complete than this one.